Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Shut Your Face with your host, me, Bree. Thank you so much for subscribing to this and listening to this and being supportive of this. It means the absolute world. It's the coolest thing ever. So thank you so much for listening to our podcast. Let's get into it. All right, cool. Just a little quick introduction before we just jump into this. Your name is Gil, and you run Mental Athletics, correct?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Awesome. Okay, well, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for taking the time to do this. Right back to what you said. You're in Israel.
Correct.
Okay, so how?
Shocker.
How? I heard about you in the United States. So, are you from
Yeah.
America or from?
Exactly. Yeah. So, half Israeli, half American,
Oh, cool.
and since I'm a little kid, I live in the line between the U.S. to Israel. My father is American, and my mother is Israeli.
How cool is that? So they have rainers over there.
Yes. Yes. I mean, very, very. Pretty popular here. Not in the size of obviously the U.S., but it's like probably the size of a small affiliate in the U.S.
Yeah.
I mean, very enthusiastic, horse people and reiners and horse trainers and clients, and love riding horses. The truth is it's true for every part of the world. You'll be surprised. I'll tell you that. I mean, I'm really fortunate to be surprised from spots in the world that people are just like love riding reiners, love showing, love equine sports. Doesn't matter where they're at. So I think that's a pretty cool thing.
No, it is cool because the more people I talk to, I hate to sound like I was living under a rock, but I kind of was because you just don't realize like how big it is in other places. I mean, you don't sometimes if you don't, know. So let's back up a little bit. Did you grow up around horses?
hmm I mean, I'm not from a horse family. When I was young, my parents took me to a summer camp for a computer summer camp, and one of the days they took us to the ranch to ride some horses, to give us a stroll around. And I was like, hell with computers, I want to ride horses, And since then, I got the bug, and yeah, I grew up as a youth rider, became a horse trainer, worked in the U.S. for quite a few years as a professional horse trainer, came back to Israel, built my business, and you know, and then it's all developed and grew to what we're doing today with mental athletics, focusing on the mindset aspect of competitive equine sports. Yeah.
Well, that was my next question. So, what prompted mental athletics? Like, were you in the show pen and you just had something happen, or somebody happened that something happened to somebody else that you know? Like, what prompted to start this business?
I think all the answers you gave up are true. I think there were many things that came together for me. It sits on two things. One, I felt as a competitor. I mean, I was as a competitor, as a horse trainer, as a coach for many non-pros over the years. I was very much aware of the impact of the specific rider's mindset over their performance. If I could do something about it, I mean, I use my intuition as a horse trainer, like many horse trainers do, and try to help the rider, peak perform at the right moment. So from one side, I was very much aware to the impact or how powerful the mindset in our success or failure in the show pen. Alongside to that, I love sports, and you look to other sports and sports psychology and mindset coaching becomes, a vital part in all main sports. And I'm thinking to myself, I was like, does it make sense to me that, all those great sports, Eli sports have the whole a developed theme of sports psychology. And in our sport, equestrian sports, and I have to say, in the show jumping and in dressage world, the English aspect of it, it's much more developed than in the Western field.
Yeah.
But for me, I was like, all right, so let's go learn about it a little bit. And I met some interesting professionals, to kind of understand a little bit more about the world. And one of them kind of told me that the art of sports psychology or mindset coaching called the technology of the sport. He said, a football sports psychologist will have a hard time to help a horse, a competitive equine rider. You know, the athlete in every sport is looking for an individual that understands its world and understands, the back themes of what leads us to where we're at playing this competitive game. And I saw something that was missing. I was like, all right, that's an interesting path to go through. I found, a lot of interest in it. I felt that I haven't had an opportunity to be very good at it, and this is what I do today.
Well, I mean, a lot of people, you hear a lot of people say if a horse makes a mistake, it's never the horse's fault, it's always the person's fault. So, and you can see a lot of people talk like online and stuff as far as social media. I've seen a lot of conversations where people literally ask, how do I get over the anxiety? How do I get over this? How do I deal with this? Because a lot of people already know it is very mental when it comes to riding a horse.
Mm-hmm.
So it's cool that you have those tools out there for people to use, or hire you to use or whatever to help that. What's one of kind of the biggest obstacles that you've seen people face as far as the show pen goes? Not just particularly for reiners, but for all of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest obstacle is that we expect our horse to be the competitor when actually our horse is only the athlete. I mean, the way I see it, it's it's a team sport. It's not an individual sport. It's not only Gil stepping into the show pen. It's Gil and it's horse.
Yeah.
But it's a unique team sport because that's the only sport in the world where the rat is the competitor and the horse is the athlete. Meaning that you and we choose to live a competitive life. We choose to enjoy the thrill of victory, but at the same time, suffer from the agony of defeat. We choose to be observed, judged, and evaluated on our riding abilities.
Yeah.
But still, our success is always dependent on our horse performing their highest athletic abilities when it counts in the show pen.
Yeah.
Although I don't believe my horses have any clue that they're living a competitive life. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think they know when they're stepping into the arena by themselves. They know something's happening. All right, something weird. It's different than what it was the last few days. But still, they don't know the difference between winning or losing, and finishing top 10 or making the finals or not. They care nothing about it. And I think that the biggest mistake that us riders we expect our horses to be good competitors, to handle the pressure. And it's not their job to handle the pressure. It's our job to handle the pressure of the game, of the competitive game. And if we do a good job with that, usually we create a team, a strong and confident team that helps us or allows us to peak perform when it counts. So I think the main trigger is that we put the pressure of the competitive game over the horse to be handling it. And I think that's the place for us to take responsibility for that. And it's pretty cool because it creates a win-win situation because, I deal with, like you said, all the anxiety, the stress, being overwhelmed. I work on myself. I condition myself to be ready to be challenged. Yeah. It's only I can see my horse reacting to it, and usually in a very positive way.
Yeah, yeah. Do you think that some people aren't mentally prepared to accept the fact that they need a mental coach to do better?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that when I started, this whole idea, and I was a horse trainer in the U.S. I have a lot of colleagues and know a lot of people. It was a blessing because that's what opened a lot of doors for me. But in the beginning, I had some doors shut in my face. I'm like, Gil, what you talking about, man? I mean, but I think that it's inevitable. I think that everybody, between if they say it out loud or not, they're understanding the importance of it. I don't see myself only as a mental coach. That's the truth. All right, I'm very. I'm still in this journey of defining myself what exactly I am because I'm a mental coach and I'm also a horse trainer, and
probably a therapist too.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm a competitor. Yeah. I love the life of a competitive life.
Yeah.
I'm addicted to competing, and I think that there's a reality that is always challenging us mentally. I always say riding horses is pretty simple. They've been doing it for thousands of years. But riding horses in a competitive theme, makes it a lot more difficult, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
And that's our place to grow and to overcome that and learn the best form of ourselves, you know, and in that competitive environment.
And you can't talk to your teammate. I mean, it's not like the horse can sit down and go, "Hey, look, this is what's going on." I mean,
I wish we could.
right? It'd make it a lot easier. What's kind of the biggest? I've kind of wondered this as far as from the outside looking in. It's hard enough to compete in the equine industry because it's you like you said a minute ago, your team is a living breathing thing that doesn't speak compared to other sports where you have teammates and people that speak and you can meet and you can talk. I think that kind of sets equestrian sports away from other types of sports. Do you agree?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, what does that you think that affects the mentality of the people that are in equestrian sports? Because we're small. Like, equestrian in general is already small, but the sport part of it is even smaller. Do you
Yeah.
think that that kind of affects a person's mentality even outside of the ring? Because I saw an article once a couple of years back where this lady wrote about how you have to be friends with the person that you're competing against. And when you go into the show pen, we're all not spending this money just for fun. I mean, you can say that, but we want to win. You want a result out of it. But when you come
Hmm.
out, you still have to be friends. Whereas sometimes a competitor's mentality is, that's not your friend. You not be friends with this person.
Yeah.
Have you seen how it's kind of hard to tag that line, or what do you suggest for that? Do you think?
Yeah, I think I separate it to two divisions. Let's say it this way. I think there is the open division, all right, that these are horse trainers, open riders, that's what they do. You know what I mean? I mean, their whole definition of life is being training horses and preparing those horses to compete and competing with them in many different levels and many different, equine sports. But I think that for me, the more like, so this is one, and this is one way to look at it. And these are, let's say, sheer competitors, sheer athletes. That's all they do. Okay, a horse trainer has no time to do any other thing but train horses for a living and travel from one horse show to another. I think what is also very interesting is the non-pro, the amateur part of equine sports. All right, because equine sports is one of the only competitive sports that it's highly competitive, even if it's in the amateur field. People are not making a living from competing with horses. The opposite, they spend a lot of money,
Yeah.
competing, and different equine sports. Now, I had a client a long time ago said something to me very interesting that I took with me, along my journey. She said, you gotta understand that the majority of the amateurs that are able to compete in this life as competitive equestrian riders are A-type individuals. These are people that in their private life are very successful. They can afford themselves to have a horse. Okay, they're probably somebody's boss. I mean, they're people that are very dominant. And she said, but what the beautiful thing is that when I get on my horse, he can make me feel that small.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she said, this is the kind of contradiction that I'm always dealing with, and I love it. It's not always fun, but that's why I do it. Because, we buy new horses, we compete, I win that show, I don't make the final of that show. I mean, there's always tomorrow. But she says, to take an A-type individual and a horse could make him feel, out of control, not the dominant one in this competitive sport, not necessarily the dominant leader, but a different kind of leadership. That's actually is highly addictive, and I see it a lot of non-pros and amateurs in our sport. That thing that hooks them,
Yeah.
the fact that they never feel better than that sport. They never feel just like too big to go ride horses. There's
Yeah.
always another horse show and another young horse or another something that will challenge them to be that much better, and that's the addictive part of it. So I think this is that thing that you know pulls us into it so
Like
much.
a muse, kind of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Did you have a particular horse that kind of set your mind in a new level? Did you have a horse that you rode or showed or whatever have you that kind of pushed you to look more at the mental aspect of the game versus the physical aspect?
Absolutely. I mean, I think I said that all of us have that horse that changed our life.
Yeah.
We all have that unicorn that was something for us. And for me, yeah, it was quite a few years ago. Was a mare that I actually came back here to Israel, and I took a break from horses for a few years, and I got this mare. She was a 5-year-old mare. Um, and everybody told me about this mare, that she's very talented, but she's hot and a bit crazy, and I'm like, all right, thank you for letting me know that. And I got to ride her, and she was a freak. I mean, she could do reining maneuvers. I mean, she could turn, she could stop, she could do everything. But after a few rides, I told myself, wow, she really hates her job. Really, I mean, I go to the arena, and from the second we're in there, she just wants to leave. She wants to do anything but not to participate with me. And I asked myself, all right, can I make her like the job? And for one of the first things I did, I just kind of went to a really, really small bridle, like a snaffle was a small shank, and I told myself, just that's my goal, to make her love this job. Like, be a good, partner, just to ride. And really, a 2-3 month into this training process, suddenly she became the most amazing show horse I ever had. I mean, I pretty much won everything here in Israel with her for like 3-4 years, and then the Napa took over and
Oh
won
wow.
everything for 3-4 years, and she kept on showing she was until she was like 13 years old. And what I always say about her that really changed in me was I was always focusing on conditioning myself into this ride. Okay, I was always aware of how I'm bringing myself into each and every ride. So one thing was like really conditioning myself, and two was the art of let's call it like the art of listening to the horse. I think we're very, very good at speaking to the horse, telling them what we wanted to do. But in many cases, when we are not mentally conditioned, we're lacking the ability to listen to the horse. And for me, a strong mental state is not about focus only. It's not about confidence. I mean, these are um, things that come through from um, you know high quality process. But I think the mental game is about conditioning myself to think like a horse. Although I have all the distractions in the path of competitive life, the story, winning, losing, the money spent, making the client happy, or, you know, not disappointing my wife or whatever. I mean, beside all those stories, to be able to get on the horse and think like a horse, connect to a horse and do the best horsemanship you can, that's the definition of mental toughness, of resilience, the way I see it. And that's where I'm trying to lead, the riders I'm fortunate to work with, because,
That's very eye
yeah,
opening because you are right. You can watch people just kind of skip over the horse and not even think about what they're thinking because they get too comfortable with them, maybe, or they just don't, think anything else about it because the horse doesn't speak, And then you also, do you ever kind of encounter just horse people tend to be stubborn and they get stuck in their ways of what's right and what's wrong and what's this and what's that. That can kind of hinder people too as far as showing is concerned. What do you suggest for that, or is that just something they'll have to figure out themselves?
yeah, I think you cannot force anybody to change their mind if they don't have the interest in changing it.
Right, right.
Okay, and I'll tell you one thing that I'm learning. The best riders I see, all right, the highest, like the competitors in the highest levels, they're not as competitive as you would think.
Yeah.
They're learners. They're always there to figure out something. One of the things that motivated me the most because was that, my first, when I started with mental athletics, actually you'll be surprised that, all right, so that the middle layer wasn't very interested in what I was doing. The lower level, the lower layer of competitors, the ones that were struggling with sensitivity, were like, oh man, can you help me? But what really blew my mind was that the best riders in some of the Western fields reached out and was like, man, I want to hear what you're talking about. I want to know what you have there that I can learn. I can, take to my program and master it. I mean, and I was fortunate to work, and I'm still fortunate to work with some of the best riders in this field. And because if you want to take yourself to the next level, you got to use all the information that is being there provided. So you'll go watch a training clip, you'll go want to learn to do some vet treatment on your horse, shoeing, and also yourself, mentally, physically, technically.
I've always thought it was a red flag if somebody spoke like they knew it all already. Because to me, I'm just like, first of all, there's no way for you to know it all. But second of all, like, to not have any type of arrogance speaks lack of confidence, I guess, for me it does. So I'm glad you said that. That makes me feel better because I think that would be cool too, because you think they're like way up here and they're already up there and you don't need to, they wouldn't need you. But for them to be like one of the first ones to go, hey, what's up? That's probably comforting for you. Now, what's this picture in the background with the bridleless horse? Is that you?
Yeah, that's me. That's actually that man I was just talking about.
Oh, cool.
So that's one of the articles we had in the NHA Rainer quite a few years ago. So
that's cool.
This is she was a special horse for me. So
very cool.
I was happy to.
Is it do you ever come over here at all for the shows or no?
Yeah, I travel every month. I'm somewhere around the world. Really, I mean, I'm fortunate to work with riders in the U.S., Europe, Australia, Southern America. So yeah, I make it to the U.S. 2-3 times a year, and to Europe again 2 to 3 times a year, and if I get a chance. And there's the option also make it to Australia, and that's really cool. I mean, I think that's a privilege to be traveling around and work with riders and.
Yeah, no, it really is because you're like I think other people probably think the same way I do. You live in a rock in the horse community because you don't think like it sounds dumb, but you just like don't think you're like no, there's nothing out there, but it's big in other areas. Like Brazil is really big with horses. I didn't know this.
Very big.
Yeah, I didn't know this until I started talking to people, and I'm like, holy cow, I didn't know that. So that's really cool. Do they put on shows differently over there compared to how the U.S. does it? Is there a massive difference or no?
Not really. I mean, really, that's a beautiful thing. I mean, if you are competing in a competitive, like in a equine sport, whatever it's gonna be, it could be reining, cutting, working cow horse, all around. I mean, doesn't matter where you put yourself in the world. You're going to a horse show in the sport you ride, you feel at home.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe not the same level and quality of horses, but the culture wise is.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I mean, people love it, and eyes are always to the U.S. U.S. is a big leader of it, but I think that you saw just now the Run for a Million in Vegas, a European guy won it. I mean, with a European horse, it was amazing to see. So
yeah,
I think that's pretty cool. Yeah.
Well, I didn't know. I was asking because, like in Brazil, I know when it comes to barrel racing down there, they do it completely different. They do bit checks,
Really?
they do weights for the people. Like it's a whole different ball game compared to how they do it in the United States. So I didn't know if it changed much as far as that's concerned. No. Okay. Now, as far as like, do you still ride now? Do you still compete?
Yeah, I compete. Yeah, and I ride. I mean, I closed my training business back in 2020. I send my clients to some of my colleagues here, but I keep my own horses. I have a couple of partners that invest in what I do, and we keep between 2 to 4 horses. Some of them are here, some of them are in Europe, some of them sometimes make it to the U.S. and we train our horses. We send them to some trainers in Europe and in the U.S. We compete with them ourselves, and for me, I keep on riding every day. And I ride 2 to 3 horses because I don't have time to ride more than that. But I call it the laboratory for me. That's the place that I go there and my mind works. I'm training a horse. I'm preparing for a horse show. I'm going to compete. It's very important to put myself online. If I wanna help an individual that is a competitive rider. I mean, I have to get in his head, and the only way for me to get into his head is to put the cowboy hat on and the boots and the chaps and go show. Take the chance to succeed, take the chance to fail, and and grow from it.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely.
Now, why do you think the English side of the industry is far more advanced as far as mental athletics, for better use of
Yeah.
words, is, why do you think they're more advanced as far as that's concerned versus the Western industry?
I think for two reasons. I think one thing that they're an Olympic sport, and once you become an Olympic sport, the government usually provides you the framework to bring your best into the Olympics every 4 years. Okay, and part of it is the psychological aspect of it. I can tell you here in Israel, the Olympic sports, they have some great sports psychologists like helping them, and really we have some sport that these teams are game changers in the power of the competitive team. So I think that they're one thing they're Olympic, and the second thing they've been here a bit longer. I mean, show jumping.
Yeah,
I don't
true.
know how many years it goes back, but it's much more like Western sports we're fairly young. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean we're pretty new in this, and we're progressing in high speed. But that's, I would think, the reason, not because the culture. For me, it's not the culture. It's the opposite. I can tell you that I if I could tell you in the beginning, I had some doors shut in my face. Now a lot of doors are opening up, and now a lot of interesting people are showing interest in it, want to see what we do, want to hear about it, because why not take a chance to succeed? Why not
Yeah.
take a chance to become better? So
Well, I could see that in the beginning when you started, because the cowboy persona is very like hard. It's very like tough. Very like you don't want to talk about that certain type of stuff. Suck it up. And so I could see where that probably was a door shut in your face for a little bit of time. But how long have you been in business or been doing this?
I've been doing it full time, a little bit over 5 years now. When I opened Mental Athletics, I
Oh,
started
wow.
doing it before a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, now we're in our fifth year of
So yeah, that's
running.
pretty fast though. I mean, that's cool though that you were able to kind of change the way people were thinking, because I could see that, because it was very much kind of ingrained in my brain. I know when I was growing up showing, not like Rainers or anything like that, but you just kind of sucked it up. That's what they taught you. You just sucked it up. You just dealt with it. You didn't really entertain those thoughts that you might have needed to entertain to better yourself.
Hmm.
So it's cool to
Yeah,
see that in the industry.
yeah. I also try to be very, very practical, and what I mean by practical, I'm also very, oriented towards like training tools. Horse people like to have a tool. All right, I understand there's a challenge. What can I do about it? All right, I'm
Yeah.
not here. Not everybody will like to, sit down and have a conversation about it. That's fine. All right, and but for me, one of the things that if you go into my website, if you go into my online courses, you'll see that a big part of it is sharing with you practical tools to help you mentally condition yourself to execute high level horsemanship in a highly competitive and public environment. And that's for me the thing that I understood that I was looking for as a horse trainer, as a competitor. All right, I was looking for tools that I can practice them. I can master that part, add it to the other things I need to take care of preparing to show, and it's completed to high performance.
Yeah.
And the second thing is that I understood that it's not this individual, that individual are struggling. Everybody struggles in a certain part of their journey, and nobody will deny that.
Right.
All right.
Well, no, some people will deny that. Some people might not want to admit it, but I totally agree. I'll be the first to tell you, like, because I don't know if this is true or not, but you can let the outside world affect inside of the show can.
Absolutely.
And I think a lot of people struggle with that. I know I used to struggle with that. Even some of the things that you probably teach for horse riders can be applied for business owners. It can be applied in all other different areas. Could you, agree with that? Just as far as the mental, you know,
Yeah.
principles.
Absolutely, yes. I don't go there because I always tell myself, all right, like that's the world I play in. All right, the equine sport. If somebody chooses to take it to their own, you
Right.
know, in their own different aspects of life, I mean, for me, it's a blessing.
Yeah.
But I don't necessarily aim towards that direction.
Right.
I believe really in mastering something very, very specific. Okay, for me, riding a horse is something that we should not overlook. It's almost sacred. Okay, I mean, you're getting on an animal, and you want to make this animal do something for you. All right, that's your starting point. Now, how are you gonna do it? 1,000 ways to do it. All right. And nothing, at the end of the day, all we see is the winner and who didn't make it to the finals, who didn't make the cut. That's what we can see, okay? But the truth is the process is a lot more challenging. It's a lot deeper. It's a lot more, really, it's a great challenge every given day. I mean, I can tell you that I'm working with riders now at the horse show in Tulsa, and they're going to show today. And just today happened that their horse worked terrible,
Yeah.
I mean, it happened to all of us, right? Now, the question is not if your horse worked good or bad. The question is, how did you react?
Yeah, very true.
And if you reacted in the way you're proud of, usually it will help you succeed at the show pen. Usually you'll learn something from it. Usually you'll feel good with yourself, So it's not about only making your horse being good in the show pen. It's when he's good, how do you react? When he's bad, how do you react? And put that in a time frame of competitive sports, because you need to show at a certain day at a certain time. You got to make sure your horse is ready.
Yeah.
And it's not always as you wish. A lot of times it goes off track, and we take the long route to where we want to get to.
Yeah. Well, and it's a good thing that trainers have you available or they can hire you to help you, because sometimes the only thing that they have, even competitors, the only thing they have in their ear is a customer or the horse, or they have nowhere to actually go and have somebody kind of look at them without all of that and can bring it back down to reality. Because there's a lot of pressure with being a horse trainer, because you are still owning a business. You still have to compete, you have to run the business, you have to do this, so that's cool. Do you have like a particular situation or person or client that just really stood out to you that you had a huge change in, or any type of situation that kind of just stuck with you throughout your career so far that you've helped?
There were many. That's the truth.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't, and I don't want to pick up a name, because I think it's each one of us personal journey.
Right.
But there were many. I think there were many moments that something happened there, and we're like, wow, and I was proud of my rider. I was proud of myself to bring that in. I always tell my riders, that going back to what you said about the horse trainers, all right? There's a rider that I'm very familiar working with. His name is Gabriel Borges. He's one of the up-and-coming trainers in the reining industry. He's a young Brazilian rider. He's in his early 30s, and he already won major events, and he's getting closer to $1 million. And he reached out 4 or 5 years ago. He reached out to me, still a young trainer, just opened his business in Arizona, and he said, Gil, I heard about your program, and let's start, working on this program. So I did the foundation program. We worked together, and after we finished that, usually we're like, okay, so you can choose. We can keep on working at horse shows. We can, a lot of riders, that's exactly what they were looking for, and we, keep in contact, but not necessarily in close work. And then he says, Gil, I love sports, and I see all the great athletes in other sports. They have people in their corner, And he said, right now, my mission is to build a team to be in my corner.
I don't blame him. Yeah.
Right. I mean, I needed people to be in my corner, help me be my best.
Yeah.
In this journey, and that was something that you really changed my perspective. I'm not here to help you fix something or overcome something or even succeed in that show. It's that position to be in somebody's corner. That you're there, you're focused on them, but they also know that you're there in case they need you for the success, for the challenges, for the failures. I mean, we're living in this life, and that was a defining, statement, a defining moment that I took with me, and I presented as that position today to many of the riders that I get to work close to them. You got me in your corner. My goal is your success, and you know that I'm always there, 24/7. My phone is available for you to reach out, and we're here in this journey together. And I think that's cool. That's a big privilege.
No, that is really cool. I'm glad you said that because you do some kind of need to separate. It can be very easy to stay in that business mindset and then like cut it off at 5 and separate it. But the fact that you're able to do that, and he sat there and said, "I needed that." That's kind of cool because you do need that. Like
I mean,
well, especially with horses, because granted, yes, it is a business. There's a lot of money running through it, exactly. But at the end of the day, most of these people, like you even said earlier, the majority of them are doing it for fun. You know, they're not, the professional aspect of the horse industry is very small. They're way up here,
yeah,
but the other one, they're doing it for fun. And so it's
yeah.
hard to keep that line clean of we want to compete, we want to win, but let's not let this ruin our life. Like,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this is the thing. This is the misconception. We all want to win, right? But in our sport, it's not about winning, and I'll surprise you here. And the reason it's not about winning is because we all come to a horse show. Sometimes we know very well that our horse is not going to win the show, all right? And that's all right. Maybe that the other horse, he's got a chance to win. My pony is not here to win. And this is the cool thing. The unique aspect of our sport is that we all chase a mutual, let's call it factor, and I call it peak performance. If you're able to bring your horse to the show pen and get the best out of your horse, it does not matter what place you place. I promise you that. It doesn't matter if you finish second, first, 10th, or 50th. If you feel that you got the most out of your horse, reach that peak ability of your horse in a certain place at a certain time, you are happy.
there you go.
You are a happy person, happy competitor.
Yeah.
Okay? And that's a beautiful thing about it, because then the whole focus shifts. And not necessarily me against them. I'm playing the game that it's here for me.
Right.
The challenge is for me to get that best out of my horse, and that creates an A-type individual, the A-type competitors that we are really chasing a vision, as opposed to just being better than the other 20. Now, if we are as good as we can and we have the quality of horse, then we can also win. Obviously,
Right. You just made me think about something. Have you ever had a client where you had to pull out of that winning competitive edge, where it's too much, where they lose sense of everything? Have you ever had anybody just kind of go, hey, because as a trainer, I can see where they probably get pressure from customers, they get pressure from breeders, they get pressure from this and that, because it can be a lot of pressure. Have you ever had to have somebody where you just had to pull them out of that mindset, like, hey, look, it's not about winning right now?
Is it a nice way to ask, have you ever pissed off one of your clients?
Well, I mean, I'm going to go to a golden rule of thumb. I would rather be respected than liked, and if I got to tell the truth to be respected, I'm okay. In a nice way.
Yeah, I tell you what, I always, like my riders know. They know that I will always tell them my truth, but it's my truth.
Yeah.
And I'm not always right. I mean, might be wrong.
Right.
Like for me, but they need to hear that voice. That's what I'm here for. So if might think that this rider is too deep into that competitive mindset, like you just said. If I thought so, I would tell him that. But if he would still go that same path that he was, as long as that person is not harming himself, his horse, or his surroundings, but it's just like a choice of an approach, I'll be there adjusting myself to them and not making them adjust themselves to what I think. I can tell you, a few years back, one of my best clients in Europe, she was searching for a horse. And she sent me a horse that I really disliked. I didn't like that horse. And she asked me what would I think about it, and I told her what I thought about it, that I don't like that horse. And she went and bought that horse, and she didn't tell me about it for like, I don't know, it was a week. Yeah. And then she couldn't hold herself, she told me, and I'm like, awesome, let's do it.
Right.
She's like, I thought you were going to be disappointed. I said, you asked my opinion, I gave you my opinion, but now my job is to help you go win with that horse, not to tell you I don't like it anymore. Now I need to start liking it and finding the ways to succeed, So this is the thing, you can tell your opinion, but your opinion is not the hard knock truth. it's another voice that that specific competitor can trust, that voice to be real, that will be with no how to say, like, hind thoughts. I'm not, my personal goal is to be as real and maybe supportive to that rider to succeed.
Right.
Okay, but I'm not there only just to build their confidence. A lot of times I'm breaking riders' mind. A lot of times my riders that are close to me, we leave a conversation, a session, like, oh man, you really got me thinking now. I mean, I need to think about it for a few days until the next time. I do that a lot of times. We practice ugly. My personal philosophy. Yeah. So yeah, that's my training philosophy. It's called practicing ugly, and practice ugly is about a weakness oriented approach. All right. You don't need me to help you with your strengths. Whatever you're good at comes natural, my friend. A practice ugly is like, all right, let's find where our weaknesses, and let's play there.
Yeah.
And the whole idea is that equine sports are very exposed sports. When you go to a horse show, you practice to show with all your peers around you, with people in the stand sitting watching you, and you feel judged and observed all the time.
Yeah.
So that the self-awareness of your image a lot of times holds you back from maximizing your ability and preparing this horse as good as you could. And practice ugly is a slogan that I really implement in people's mind, that it's good with them, and I'm really happy that it's catching. I see it in many places now. This whole idea of the philosophy of practicing ugly, really doing whatever you need to do today, no matter how many distractions you have around you. And that's actually the secret of the greatest riders. I did not invent it. I just gave it a great name, the catchy name. I was observing some of the greatest athletes, as a young trainer. And I thought they're gonna lose at that horse show, because their horses looked terrible. And the following day, they just went there and executed beautiful runs.
Right.
And and the whole idea of practicing ugly is sits on three core values. One is be real. Be authentic. Be who you are. You're not perfect. I'm not perfect. We have strength. We have weaknesses. But if you choose to be real in this process of preparing yourself as a competitor, as a horse, equine athlete, you become comfortable to do what you need to do and confident about doing it in a highly competitive public environment. So if you're real, you become confident in your abilities and comfortable to act, to work, to take actions, no matter how it looks. And then you lead to the highest core value that I talked a little bit before about it, that best teams win. I don't believe that the best riders or the most talented rider is going to win the show, neither the best or the most talented horse. It's that connection. It's that team that will be the most connected that specific day that usually will win. And this is the three core values that we're led by when we choose to practice ugly.
Yeah. No, I love it. I think it's great. It's like no pain, no gain when you're in the gym. Like if you look pretty in the gym, are you really actually working? So,
yeah, absolutely.
What is something that you want to kind of leave with people? When somebody hires you or somebody goes through one of your courses or speaks to you, what's something that you would want to leave with them, or what you would want them to take away from that?
The biggest thing that I try to do as part of what I do is creating the notion that there's always an additional path to reach your goal. It's not make it or break it. It's not one path, and this is the only way I can do it. All right, we can, a lot of times, if we take a step back and we kind of zoom out on the situation we're at, we see an additional options and additional strategies that we can reach where we want to. And I think that one of the untalked about challenges in our sport is that a lot of times I feel that we, let's say, call it horse welfare. Okay, there's a lot of notion for horse welfare.
Yeah.
And I can tell you that as a horse trainer, one of the things that brought me to become a mindset coach is the fact that I felt that riders are not fair on their horses, not because they're not good riders or not good horses, it's because they're a little bit overwhelmed by the pressure of the game.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest notions that I try to kind of develop is the win-win situation. You know, if I'm in a good mental state, usually I feel better. I'm in a better place, and then I'm challenging my horse in ways that I'm proud of, and better horsemanship. You know, I see the horse in this process. I see myself in this process, and I can get to the best results, even better than it was before, by doing things a bit different.
Yeah.
You know, by conditioning myself, working on myself, and bringing myself in this game in a stronger way. And that's, once you taste that, I mean, you can't go back from it. You know, it's just very powerful.
Yeah, to being able to do see another perspective on how to do something could be eye opening. You know, a lot of people miss out when they don't do that. You know.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
You know.
Now I'm preaching to the choir here. So, what do you think about? I was going to ask you something else as far as showing us concerned. Oh yeah. How big of an impact? This is probably going to sound like a dumb question, but how big of an impact or outside factors that have nothing to do with horses have you seen affect people, or how much they let it affect people? Because you know when things happen in your life that are outside of the horse industry and outside of the pen, it's easy to just stick it away, push it away, like put it on a back burner, put it in the closet. But do you ever try to like access the fact that those things can creep up into people and it can affect their competition, it can affect what they do? How do you suggest handling that, or do you ever see that?
So you're asking, I'm not sure I understood the question. If like there's outside distraction or outside things come into the world of like our competitive
Yeah.
journey or competitive life.
Yeah.
I see it all the time. I mean, we're human. I think it goes back to practicing ugly. You're not perfect. I'm not perfect. We all
Right.
got, you know, things to deal with. And I think that it's people's choice. I see a lot of times people deal with certain struggles that they choose to push it aside. That's a choice they make. You know, that's fine. And some people choose to be very open about something and work on that. That's also fine. What is better than the other? I don't know. You know, depends on the individual, depends on the situation, and we have to be, you know, we have to be true. You know, we all go through those things. You know, for
Yeah.
me, even myself, you know, I'm my biggest client. You know, everything that I tell all my riders all the time. Whenever I'm gonna work with you, don't worry. I try that myself first. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you know, but yeah, it comes with you. I think that everything you do in life plays out to the way you perform on the saddle. You
That's
know?
yeah. That's what I was trying to ask. I mean, like it's easy to let outside things affect. Where a competitor may say, "Okay, well, this is non-horse related. I don't need to worry about it," or "This doesn't have anything to do with horses. I don't. It's not going to affect me." When actually those things will seep in and affect people. That's what I'm asking.
It will affect them, but not necessarily in ways you would think. You know, for some individuals, might be some really big challenges in life, and actually going to a horse show is the ability to disconnect and live in a parallel world for at least 3 to 5, 6 days. All right, and succeed and win and really, I mean, feel freedom. And after 6, 7 days, they're going back to their whatever struggle they dealt with. So
Gotcha.
it's not necessarily as a negative thing. What happens in life comes with you, or positive what happens in life. It's, you know, I think that it's each individual is dealing with it differently, and you got to remember that for us equine athletes, we it's longevity. I mean, I never met a person that quit competing. All right, maybe you don't have a horse for now, but the moment you have the interest or the money to get a horse, it's for life. You are competing from the moment you know something about the moment you made this choice to become a competitor. Okay, you quit when you only physically cannot ride horses anymore. I mean, that's the time you
Yeah.
quit.
Right.
And you see it. And we can ride for many years. So it's really it goes with us for like through life. So everything that we go through life come with us to the horse life. But that's a lot of times that is our therapy. To come
Yeah.
to those horses, to succeed, to fail, to ride, to clean your horse's stall, to be your horse's slave, whatever. And sometimes, I mean, it's not only the reflection of where you're at. It's also a lot of times the place to be that keeps us sane. And keeps us happy.
Something to get away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I don't think like I don't see it in a dark way. I mean, the
Right.
opposite. I think it's actually you know, you go to horse shows. I mean, the people are living their dream. That's the truth.
Yeah, well,
You
there's
know.
probably like burnout. You probably deal with people who have burnout too, as far as a trainer is concerned, or people that run it as a business. They could get burnt out, you know.
I think yeah, there are quite a few burnouts, but the question is why. You know, I think one of the things that you see a lot more. I mean, in the non-pro or the amateur field, I don't see too many burnouts. I mean, I see some people are frustrated or
Right.
stuff like that, and they choose to take a break and find other
Mm-hmm.
interests. Not a lot, but I see that here and there. But I think when you think about burnout, you think more about like the professional aspects of it, the people that's what they do, and now they're like out of it. Um, so I think burnouts is a lot of times happens because you don't afford yourself to live. You put yourself in a mentality of that or that, or I do it or I don't do it, or I do it great or I don't do it. And I think that life is not about that or that. Like it's about that and that. And you see a lot of people in that, and I'm part of that movement. You know, I'm also still a horse trainer. Okay, I train horses. I mean, not for living, but as my daily life, I still train horses every day. But I think the sport is if you can do something and to do another thing that is part of this world, you know, it's kind of helps you grow, you know, and it helps you keep that longevity of of you know, of a horseman, you know, and you're adding something to the sport. You find your interest, you know. I was a horse trainer. I knew all my life I was going to be only a horse trainer. I didn't know what I'm going to be, you know, but I had this feeling that there's something else that I want to do, and you know, I'm fortunate I found something that I'm very interested in and I love it. So
I think it's always cool to talk to people that are in the horse industry that didn't grow up around horses. It's always interesting because it's like those are always the people that like go a lot further than the people that are like I don't want to say born into it, but are around it. They always end up knowing more about whatever they're doing. They almost succeed more when it comes to it when they haven't been around it. So that's cool. It's cool that you came from that to this to where you are now. So
yeah, I mean, I really feel blessed. I really feel blessed, and that's awesome. You know, look, here we are, sitting here and talking about the industry, about the sport, about you know what I do, and I think it's cool. You know, and if there's one person here that you know will take something from it and really will open their thought, you know, open their curiosity, you know, so I think that's my goal. I always tell myself I start with one, go to 10, to 100, to 1,000, 10,000, a million, 10 million, 100 million around the people around the world. You know, spark this life, you know,
yeah,
this light of like well being, high performance, leadership. You know, that's my mission, and you know,
yeah. I think it's great. I think it's wonderful. I'm glad it's out there because, like I said before, you know, it's not. You didn't hear of mental athletics. You didn't hear of help as far as competing is concerned or things of that nature. When it really is should be something that should be talked about a lot more and more tools out there for for the horse for the horse
yeah,
person.
absolutely.